Shall we start?
Yes, please start.
So, very good morning to all of you. I am really honored to welcome all of you to this important session, which focuses on exploring the demand side and policy demands on heat wave risk mitigation and management from the point of view of heat wave effect. And as we speak, the ramifications of climate change are becoming increasingly apparent, mainly through lethal phenomenon of heat waves in the South Asia region. And these deadly events, intensified by global warming, they pose significant threat not just to our environment, but to our health, livelihoods, and economies. The year 2015, as you may recall, Alonso, thousands perished in India and Pakistan, while more recent episodes have underscored that no nation is immune to the escalating hazard and heat waves. Our region's informal sector workers, especially particularly women, they bear the brunt of these climate adversaries due to the exposure and nature of their work. Thus, fostering a dialogue for policy demand and awareness is not just timely but imperative. And we are glad and we are happy to organize this event today. Recognizing the heatwave management needs as intersectoral approach to policy making, integrating gender perspectives and community initiatives with science and technology is vital. And our session today, facilitated by distinguished experts, will review existing initiatives, gaps, challenges, and opportunities for improving policies at various levels. And in spirit of regional cooperation, let this session be a stepping stone and a step forward towards effective heat wave risk management in South Asia. And I urge that let us collaborate, innovate, and empower each other to safeguard our communities and ensure that socio-economic fabric of our families and home businesses remains resilient in the face of rising temperatures. And in terms of schedule for today, in our schedule for today's event, we have 3 presentations. And the first presentation will be done by Dr. Rajvi Joshipura of Self-Employed Women's Association of India. Then we'll hear from Professor Mehbooba Nasri, Professor Vice Chancellor of Bangladesh Open University. And the third presentation will be made by Dr. P.G. Dar Chakrabarti, Professor of Environment and Disaster Management. And following all 3 presentations, we'll have a question and answer session. And we'll have a discussion about the presentations. And in the end, I will sum up. I will try to sum up the policy actions or recommendations based on today's deliberations. So this is our session plan for today, and let us hope all works out well. But before we begin our presentations, we would like to launch the South Asia Disasters.net issue number 209, which is heatwave risk management. And as many of you already know, that as AIDMI, we have been publishing the South Asia Disasters.net for almost 2 decades now. And this document is not merely a compilation of research and some articles, but it is a call to action. And the publication argues that we do so with recognition that heat waves does not have to be deadly. Preemptive measures are in place. So it stresses the importance of heat wave preparedness at various levels. The issue talks about current challenges, and it identifies that increasing frequency and intensity of heat waves in South Asia are a pressing humanitarian need and concern, and the built environment and infrastructure are inadequate for severe temperature shifts in South Asia. The issue also talks about importance of preparing heatwave action plans and funding the heatwave action plans so that they could be implemented. It also talks about local involvement and importance of locally led heat wave mitigation measures. And it also argues how important it is for us to recognize heat waves as disasters and put heat waves on a global political agenda so there is enough resources available for heat wave mitigation. And it also talks about blending traditional knowledge and modern science technologies and making those combinations available to heat wave affected populations at various levels. It also talks about important areas for research and innovation that we need to focus on. And it also talks about importance of higher education institution in terms of creating awareness and doing research. It also talks about important role played by women in heat wave preparedness. And it also emphasizes on taking community-centric solutions and focus on meeting community needs and demand for products, services, and financing. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see all the authors who have contributed to this important issue. Can you see my screen? So these are all authors who have contributed important articles and shared their experiences on heat wave mitigation and management in the context of South Asia region. And in the chat box, I am going to share a link so that all of you can download the issue. The link is shared in the chat box, and the issue number 209 of the South Asia disaster.net on heat wave risk management is launched in this important event. So thank you so much for attending the event. And moving on, I would now like to invite our first speaker from SEWA. Dr. Rajvi Joshipura.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mehul bhai.
Thank you. Let me give you a brief introduction about Dr. Rajvi. So Dr. Rajvi Joshipura is working as a consultant at the Self-Employed Women's Association in India. She is a physician and advocate for climate action that brings her expertise in healthcare and strategic management to empower women and communities in the face of climate challenges. And she has played a vital role in implementing the extreme heat income microinsurance to mitigate the impacts of climate change on health and livelihoods of women workers. So I welcome Dr. Rajvi to share your experiences. Thank you.
Namaste and greetings to everyone. I am Rajvi Joshipura and a part of SEWA. I would like to start with a brief introduction on SEWA. SEWA, that is the Self-Employed Women's Association, is a trade union of poor women workers from the informal sector economy, and with a membership base of over 2.9 million women workers. SEWA has its membership across 18 states and neighboring countries of Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Afghanistan. Our main objectives are full employment and social securities. And here we come together as poor, as women, as workers, no matter what caste, community, or religion we belong to. And in order to fight against poverty, we organize to build our collective strength. So talking about the present issue of increasing climate shocks, including heat waves, floods, and irregular precipitation patterns, we all are aware that they have been increasing drastically. And India has been experiencing a troubling surge in heat waves. And to just highlight the emphasis on how this has been increasing, in 2022, we reported about 280 heat wave days between March 11 to March 18. That was the highest in the last 12 years. So to get to the bottom of the situation, SEWA took up a mixed approach, which included a series of focus group discussions. And so we conducted a series of 30 focus group discussions, which included members belonging to various trades including construction workers, salt pan workers, small marginal farmers, home-based workers, and waste recyclers. And to supplement the information gathered from the focus group discussions, we also surveyed a total of 581 members belonging to the worst affected areas. So I would like to share my screen and we'll go over the survey results. So as I said, that the climate shocks have been impacting members, but in a multifaceted approach. These heat waves not only impact their health and livelihoods, but also have a significant impact on their food security, impact on energy consumption, impact on mental health and education of their children. So through the survey, we found out that there are 90% members whose livelihood adversely get impacted, and the top 4 reasons stated by them are: their work efficiency decreases. 64% said that there's decrease in work hours because of their direct exposure to heat and various consequences of the same on their health. They have to compromise on their working hours. There are increased expenses, be it because of the spoilage of their goods, their yield, or increased medical expenditure. And last but not the least, they said that their work days reduced because of illnesses. Other challenges that they face include they have to face direct exposure to heat because they don't have a lot of access to protective clothing or break stations. Then there's difficulty in accessing water at their workplaces. There is lack of shaded break stations, as we discussed earlier. Next, moving to the impact of heat waves on health. This is something which has been increasingly observed, that a lot of members suffer from a lot of headache, rashes, fever, dizziness, diarrhea, vomiting, and a cascade of heat-related illnesses ranging from heat stroke, heat exhaustion, and series of urinary tract infection. Lack of potable drinking water leads them to depend on other sources of impure drinking water, which then leads to waterborne diseases. And as we all are aware that this not only impacts their general health, but mental health as well. As you can see that 38% people said that their mental health is being impacted. And then 60% members reported that their food is getting spoiled and they are forced to consume that food because they don't have any other source to depend upon. 27% members indicated that they have to consume that, and 82% said that the water supply in their areas is also adversely impacted, and the reasons ranging from reduced availability of water to declined quality to non-availability to the temperatures of water not being ambient enough to drink. About the water quality and the temperature of heat being impacted, we'll hear more from one of our salt pan workers when she discusses. But based on the data and the results of focus group discussions, we would like to share a couple of points on how we can effectively shape policies that can help members adapt and mitigate to the heat waves. So first point is that the current need of this hour is to build social safety nets. This includes increasing their access to innovative financing options like microinsurance or community-based savings. For example, in 2023, SEWA piloted the Extreme Heat Income Microinsurance, and this covered about 21,000 members across 8 trades and 5 geographies. And the insurance product was structured in a manner that when the trigger hits a specific set of heat conditions based on the satellite data, each and every member who was enrolled in that program would get some amount of payment credited to their account. So this program was taken up with an intent to support members' lost livelihoods. So they don't have to choose between staying safe or earning their livelihoods. So this was about financial inclusion. Second, that Seva strongly believes that there is an opportunity in every adversity. And our experience during previous disaster have shown that work is a healer, and productive employment along with steady source of income will not only help build the resilience of these informal sector workers, but also relieve stress and weave them together as a unit. So, in addition to the various measures and schemes, along with various clean and green interventions in place, there is a dire need to pave ways for these members to have access to alternate livelihoods and skill development as an adaptation to heat waves. And the key benefit we'll avail out of this is that by integrating these initiatives into existing policies and programs, governments can provide them with avenues for transitioning to less heat sensitive occupation or trades and occupations or work opportunities that they can acquire skills for and together sustain even through various climate shocks. Because a lot of our members have said during one of the focus groups, the farmer who lost their yield because of spoilage said that any given climate shock not only impacts our income for one season, but the impact is observed. It drains our savings for series of next 2 to 3 years to come. So this is where generating opportunities for alternative livelihood plays a key role. And last but not the least, for all the members belonging to any community, health is their asset. If they are able to have access to good health, better healthcare facilities, they'll be able to sustain longer, they'll be able to work more without losing or compromising onto their work efficiency. So hence, to improve access to healthcare during extreme days of heat, what Seva did was we set up small community water coolers, procured underground cement tanks to the salt pan workers. In addition to that, we also had a cadre of grassroots leaders who, in addition to providing these members with education and awareness, linked them to further care. And once another such example was the telemedicine service, wherein members could get in touch with the doctor without having to step out for long distances or have to, or in case they, for example, someone who's a salt pan worker, their lives are in very isolated areas. In order to seek medical care, they have to travel long distances. So there will be a lot of cases wherein they will compromise on seeking treatment but stay there because the expenditure on transportation is greater than their livelihood for that day. So to this, I would like to mention that there is a need to advocate for deploying mobile medical vans, especially tailored for addressing heat-related illnesses. And these vans can be equipped with trained medical staff, cooling facilities, supplies to provide timely assistance during heat wave at their work sites, be it salt pan workers, be it street vending sites, or be it construction sites. Because given the vulnerability of these workers to heat-related illnesses such as dehydration, heat stroke, mobile medical vans will offer them with on-spot care in remote and underserved areas. And lastly, I would like to mention that most imperative thing that can be done presently is strengthening of local heat wave early warning systems. And this can involve disseminating timely and accurate warnings to members, because additionally providing them with clear guidance on preventive measures, what should be done, what shouldn't be done in local languages through visual mediums will facilitate thorough understanding and prompt action among these workers, and will also prevent mortality and morbidity among the most vulnerable segments. So I would like to end this by saying that ensuring participation from informal workers in the decision-making process and having them at the front line of climate action, including the development of heat wave action plan, will be vital, because their empowerment and inclusion will not only catalyze grassroots movements that blend indigenous media wisdom, but will also have sustainable measures in place for our resilient future. So if Mehul, by time permits, can we invite two of our grassroots leaders, Meena Ben, who's a salt pan worker, and Parvati Ben, who's a construction worker?
Yes, please.
Meena Ben? મીનાબેન, તમે બોલશો?
નમસ્તે.
નમસ્તે.
હું એક અગરિયા બેન છું.
મીનાબેન, તમે 3-4 વાક્ય બોલો, હું તમારા માટે અનુવાદ કરી દઈશ.
કે જે આપણે અત્યારે તડકામાં અમારે ઝાડા ઉલટી અને જે અમને ઝાડા ઉલટીની તકલીફ થાય છે, પછી અમને જે રણમાં દૂર દૂર રહીએ તો તો અમે ગામ સુધી પહોંચી શકતા નથી. ગામ 15 થી 20 કિલોમીટર હોય તો આના લીધે દવાખાને જવાનું પણ ટાળી દે બેનો, ટાળી દે એટલે એનાથી વધારે ને વધારે બીમાર થતા જાય ને અને એમના કામના કલાકો પણ બગડી જાય કે જે તડકો પડે એમાં બેનો કામ કરી નથી શકતા.
Okay, so Meenaben Parmar is a salt pan worker who belongs to the Surendranagar district in Gujarat. And she states that very often due to dehydration and illnesses like diarrhea, vomiting, members fall ill and have to compromise on their work hours. And additionally, during the salt pan season, they have to travel long distances because they are into isolated salt pans, and the medical facilities are about 15 to 20 kilometers away. And because of lack of medical facilities, they have to compromise on this. This not only decreases their work efficiency and work hours, but they also have to compromise on their livelihoods.
આના લીધે છે ને જો બેનોને તકલીફ બહુ ઘણી પડે કે આનાથી બેનોને કામના કલાકો બગડી જાય અને એ લોકોને આર્થિક અને માનસિક અને જે આરોગ્યની રીતે એ લોકોને ઘણો બહુ જ એ લોકોને અમારે છે ને વધારે અમને તકલીફ પડે, કારણ કે અમે જઈ શકીએ ને અમે જે રોજગારી ઉપર હોય કે રોજનું લાવીને રોજનું ખાવા વાળા, અને જે અમે અગરિયા બેનો છીએ તો અમારે તો જયારે અમને વેપારી પૈસા દે ત્યારે અમારે વાપરવાના હોય, ત્યાં સુધી તમારે કઈ ન હોય તો આનાથી અમારે ખાવા પીવામાં પણ ઘણી તકલીફ પડે.
So what she mentions is that most of them are daily wage workers, and in case their health gets compromised because of any given reasons, they miss on their livelihoods. So for the day they don't earn, there have been cases wherein they are not able to afford their 2 square meals. So this has an adverse impact on their nutrition and food security.
આના લીધે અમે અત્યારે જે અમારા કામ બગડે પછી અમે જે કામ ના કરી શકીએ તો અત્યારે જે સૂર્યની તાલીમ ચાલુ છે એમાં અમે બહેનોને બીજી રોજગારી ઊભી કરવા માટે કે બહેનો ઘરે બેસીને કામ કરે અને આર્થિક રીતે મજબૂત બને એટલા માટે અમે એ સ્વસ્થ આકાશની જે ઝુંબેશ છે એમાં અમે બહેનોને સૂર્યની તાલીમ પણ લેવડાવી છે.
So as a resilience measure to these heat waves, what salt pan workers in Surendranagar have been doing under the Swachh Akash initiative by Seva is that for the younger generations, they have started developing an alternative means of livelihood by training these members on how to use, how to fix various clean and green interventions. So if they don't want to go work under the extreme heat conditions, they can resort to this without even missing out on their livelihoods. Thank you, Meenaben. Abhar. Parvati Ben. પાર્વતી બેન.
હા નમસ્તે, બોલો.
નમસ્તે, તમે કહેશો હું તમારા માટે અનુવાદ કરી દઉં?
હા ચોક્કસ. નમસ્તે, બોલો.
હા બોલો.
નમસ્તે, મારું નામ પાર્વતીબેન છે. હું એક કડિયા કામદાર બેન છું. કડિયા કામદારોનું સંગઠનનું કામ કરું છું. સેવા સાથે 32 વર્ષથી જોડાયેલી છું. ખાસ હું કડિયા કામદારોની વાત કરું તો કડિયા કામ એવું છે કે ઉપર ધરતી નીચે આકાશ, અને અમે જે કડિયા કામદારો છે એને હીટ વેવ થી જયારે વધારે ટેમ્પરેચર વધી જાય ત્યારે કામદારની ચક્કર આવી જાય, ગભરામણ થઈ જાય, સીડીઓ ચડવાની હોય, સિમેન્ટની થેલી હોય તો પડી જાય, એમના હાથ પગ ફ્રેક્ચર થઈ જાય. પછી બીજું એ કે જે કામદારનું જે મટીરિયલ્સ હોય એ તડકામાં પડેલું હોય, એમના જે ધંધાના સાધનો હોય એ તડકામાં પડેલા હોય. એ ધંધાના સાધનો એટલી હદે ગરમ થાય કે કામદાર જયારે એ સાધનો પકડે ને ત્યારે એમના હાથમાં છાલા પડી જાય, એમના હાથમાં પગના તળિયામાં હાથમાં છાલા પડી જાય, એક તો ઉપરથી ચક્કર, ઉપરથી તડકો, અને હાથના અને પગમાં પણ એ સાધનોને લીધે વધારે તાપ લાગે છે. તો બહેનોને ડાયરિયા થઈ જાય, ગભરામણ થઈ જાય, ક્યારેક તો ચક્કર પડીને બેભાન પણ થઈ જાય છે.
Okay, so Parvati Ben is a construction worker who belongs to Ahmedabad district, and for past 32 years she has been associated with this trade. So she says that the conditions that these construction workers work in are really very adverse. They have to work under the direct heat exposure of sun without even being able to compromise on their work hours. Very often there have been cases that have been observed because of heat-related illnesses like dizziness or hypotension. Members fall down from these scaffoldings and have to seek emergency medical treatment. Additionally, she said that the tools and the material with which these construction workers have to deal with become very hot during these summer months, but still these members are forced to work with these tools with bare hands, because if they start using gloves and some other protective equipment, it decreases their work efficiency. So what happens is they often have to suffer from burns and blisters, leading to worse outcomes. Ramila Ben, આગળ.
હા, પાર્વતીબેન રમીલાબેન ના ફોન થી વાત કરું છું.
હા.
બીજું કે જે પ્રવાસી કામદારની વાત કરું તો પ્રવાસી કામદારોને જેવી એમની હાલત સાઇટ ઉપરની હોય છે એવી જ હાલત એમના ઘરની હોય છે. એમને પણ રહેવા માટે પાકા મકાનો નથી હોતા, કંતાના છાપરાઓ હોય છે, અને અચાનક વરસાદ આવે તો એમના જમવાનું બનાવવાનું જે એમનું જે ઘર વખરીની વસ્તુ હોય બધી પલળી જાય છે. એ લોકો લાકડા જલાવે, લાકડા પણ પલળી જાય છે, તો લોકોને સાંજે જમવાનું પણ બહુ પ્રોબ્લેમ હોય છે. અને સાઇટ ઉપર એ લોકો તો પલળેલા હોય, પછી સાઇટની જેવી પરિસ્થિતિ એવી બેહતર એમના ઘરની પરિસ્થિતિ હોય છે, તે લોકો ભૂખ્યા સુઈ જાય છે. અમુક વખતે આ લોકોનો પરિવાર એવો છે તો કોઈ ખુલ્લા પટમાં જગ્યા હોય ત્યાં લોકો રહે. પાણી વરસાદ આવવાથી પાણી વધારે ભરાઈ જાય તો એમનો સામાન પણ તણાઈ જાય છે, કંતાન પણ પલળી જાય છે. તો આ લોકોની હાલત પણ બહુ જ કફોડી છે.
He also mentions that the conditions in which other migrant construction workers stay is also heart-wrenching, because what happens is they live in makeshift houses. So they don't have access to strong housing structure. So in case of any given climate shock, be it heat or unseasonal rains, their goods suffer spoilage. They have to lose on their stored material, their groceries, in addition to not being able to earn their income for that day because of spoilage. Their livelihood gets adversely impacted. Additionally, the firewood that they use to light their chulhas, that also gets drenched, because of which they are not able to cook for that meal a day. And this not only impacts their access to nutrition, but also impacts their food security on a longer run.
એવી જ રીતે હું વેચનારાની વાત કરું તો વેચનારાની હાલત પણ સેમ વે એવી જ હોય છે કે એ લોકોને ઉપર આકાશ નીચે ધરતી, અને એ એક તો ઉપર આકાશની ગરમી હોય, નીચે રોડ ઉપર એ લોકો પાથરણા પાથરીને બેઠા હોય, તો રોડની પણ એટલી બધી ગરમી લાગવાથી એ લોકોનો જે ફળ ફૂલ અને એમની જે શાકભાજી હોય એકદમ કરમાઈ જાય છે. એ લોકો ભાવ ભરીને લઈ આવતા હોય, એમની શાકભાજી અને ફળ ફૂલો બગડી જાય તો એમની મૂડી પણ નીકળતી નથી. અને જે વેચનાર બેન છે રોડ ઉપર બેસીને એનો ધંધો કરે છે, તો આ ઉપર આકાશની અને રોડની ગરમીથી બેનને પણ ચક્કર આવી જાય, ગભરામણ થઈ જાય, લોકોને પીવાના પાણીની સગવડતા ન હોય, પછી ક્યારેક પોલીસના દબાણની પણ બહુ જ પ્રોબ્લેમ હોય, અને બેન બીમાર થઈ જાય તો કોણ, એ લોકોના કોઈ જવાબદાર હોતા નથી. અને ખાસ કરીને એમની મૂડી, એમનો જે ફળ ફૂલ ને એમની જે શાકભાજી હોય છે એની મૂડી પણ આ લોકોને વધારે આ તાપમાનથી નીકળતી નથી. તો એમને પણ વેચનારને પણ બહુ જ પ્રોબ્લેમ હોય છે.
So she mentions that in addition to construction workers, another worst affected trade is the street vendors. They are forced to sell their produce under the direct exposure of heat without any overhead shelters. In addition to this, another thing is that the tar roads, they absorb heat during the day and then emit that radiation, leading to increased surrounding heat for these vendors. Additionally, the direct heat exposure often spoils their material, the articles that they are selling, and the cosmetics that they sell. They often burst, leading to adverse health outcomes, including skin allergies. Not only this, but it also leads to dehydration and another cascade of heat-related illnesses. So she mentions that in order to help these members, we need to have increased access to drinking water and break stations for them. Parvati Ben, thank you. Abhar.
હજી બે ધંધા બાકી રહ્યા રાજવી બેન અમારા.
હા સારું લઈ લો.
કહી દઉં?
કહી દો.
હજી અમારું વેસ્ટ રિસાયકલ બાકી રહી ગયું.
હા લઈ લો.
હે ને એટલે વેસ્ટ રિસાયકલ ની વાત કરું ને તો એ બેનો વહેલી સવારે એ લોકો કાગળ વીણવા જતા હોય છે. તેમને કૂતરા પણ કરડી જાય. પછી એ લોકો જયારે કાગળ વીણી બહુ વરસાદ પડ્યો હોય, અચાનક વરસાદ આવે તો એ લોકોને કોઈ વસ્તુ ના મળે અને તો રોજ કમાઈને રોજ ખાવા વાળે વ્યક્તિ છે જે વેસ્ટ રિસાયકલ, તો એ લોકો એ દિવસે એમની રોજગારી પણ બંધ રહે, ઉપરથી એમને જે એમના કાગળ કચરું જે છે બધું પલળી જાય તો એ લોકોને પણ રોજગારીનો બહુ જ તકલીફ હોય છે. અને ખરા તાપમાં લોકો જયારે સોર્ટિંગ કરવા બેસે તો એમાં યાંત્રિક સાધનો છે, બેટરી છે, આ બધું છે ને બહુ તાપના લીધે એ ફાટે. તો ફાટે એટલે જે કામદાર હોય એ બધું સોર્ટિંગ કરવા બેઠેલા હોય તો એના હાથને પણ બહુ જ નુકસાન થાય છે. અને એની અંદર જે એક્સપાયરી ડેટની જે વસ્તુઓ બધી આવતી હોય એને એ લોકો હાથથી બધું અલગ કરતા હોય ને તો એના લીધે એમને ચામડીના પણ ઘણા બધા રોગો થાય છે. અને બીજું કાચ ને પતરું ને જે લોખંડની જે વસ્તુ છે ને તો એમાં એ લોકોના હાથ પણ ચીરાઈ જાય છે, એમની આંખોને પણ નુકસાન થાય છે. તો વેસ્ટ રિસાયકલ ને પણ આ જ સેમ જે પ્રોબ્લેમ છે તો હીટવેવ થી કદાચ વરસાદ વધારે પડ્યો અને એ લોકો માલ લઈને મૂક્યો હોય એ પણ પલળી જાય તો પીછાવાળા પલળેલો માલ પણ નથી લેતા.
Another thing that Parvati Ben mentioned is that waste recyclers often have to compromise on their work hours because they cannot function during the peak heat hours from 12 to 4. What they do is they start their work early and start collecting waste, conducting household visits. And when this waste gets accumulated at the segregation center, because of heat, what happens is all the material that they have got gets heated up. And with bare hands, when they start sorting them out, it leads to skin blisters and other dermatological disorders. In addition to this, all the nickel and lithium batteries, when they get heated up because of extreme heat, they have to suffer explosions. And because of explosions, not only their skin gets impacted, but they also have to suffer from respiratory disorders because of noxious fumes. So these are the problems highlighted by our grassroots leaders, by like Meena Ben, who's a salt pan worker, and Parvati Ben, who is a construction worker.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rajvi. And also Meena Ben and Parvati Ben. The presentation highlighted importance of social safety nets and financial risk transfer products like micro insurance. Dr. Rajvi also talked about importance of livelihood diversification as a strategy, as a coping strategy. And you also talk about importance of telemedicine services and also importance of other health-related services that the heat wave affected communities need during the heat waves. So thank you so much for your presentation. And our next presentation, we have two speakers left, Dr. Nasri and Dr. PG Dhar Chakrabarti. And unfortunately, I can't see any of them right now in the list of panelists or participants. I think they have not joined, but they have informed us that they will be joining. They have important official engagement right now. And as soon as they are done with that, they will be joining us. So I take the liberty, and Dr. PG Dhar Chakrabarti has informed me to run presentation on his behalf. And in case if he is available, then he will join all of us to answer some of the questions that you may have. And same thing with Dr. Nasri. But I don't have her presentation. So what I will do, we will start. I'll present the presentation shared by Dr. P.K. Dhar Chakrabarti. And we will wait for our Mehbooba ji. And in case if she joins, then we'll have the third presentation. And if there is no time, then with these two presentations, we will move ahead and we'll have a question and answer session. and then we will conclude the event. I'm sharing my screen, and so this is a presentation that Dr. P.G. Dhar Chakrabarti has shared and asked me to share with all the participants. And the title of his presentation is Heatwave Preparedness in South Asia, and the focus is on policy review. And in terms of setting the stage, South Asia region is one of the worst hotspots of wet bulb heat wave, and not all regions of South Asia are equally affected. And in his opinion, high temperature river valleys and coastal regions are having which are having high density of population and poverty have the highest risk of heat waves in South Asia. And he has shared a couple of news articles, again emphasizing, how the various parts and regions of the South Asian countries are affected by heat waves. And the projections are also indicating that, we are going to have more and more severe heat waves in coming years in the South Asia region. He has also shared references from the IPCC reports, and IPCC's fifth assessment report, 2014, demonstrates that in the last 15 years, we have witnessed a hike in frequency of hot days and nights and heat waves across the South Asia region. So there is a scientific evidence to support that. Again, in 2021, IPCC's sixth assessment, it reveals that the extreme combinations of heat and humidity doubled much of India's, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and around 800 million South Asians, almost half of the region's population, live in hotspots that will face worsening heat waves in the future. So this is based on the future projections from the IPCC reports. And in terms of adverse effects of heat waves, he has shared short-term and long-term impacts. And in terms of short-term impacts of heat waves, he mentions that heat wave-related morbidities are on the rise, and there is an increased exposure expenses on health, food, water, and energy that the poor households are bearing. And he also mentions about loss of wages due to reduced working hours and work efficiencies as a short-term effects of heat waves. And he also mentions about the heat wave impact on sectors like agriculture, horticulture, dairy, and fishery products. And in terms of long-term impacts, he has shared that, heat waves or rising temperatures, they are crossing the threshold limits of human survival. So that is something that we need to worry about. And he also talks about urban heat island effects, thermal discomfort in human habitats and workplaces, and endangering food, water, and energy securities of our citizens in the South Asia. So these are a set of short-term and long-term impacts that he has shared with us. And in terms of policy landscape in the South Asia region, he has done a very important analysis. And according to his analysis, the policy landscape on heat waves in South Asia is very diverse, but it's sketchy and it is still evolving. And it revolves around the broad spectrums of both climate change, adaptation, and disaster risk management. And he thinks that, paradigm shift in perception of heat waves is needed from a normal phenomenon to emerging risk to lives. Just a minute. From a normal weather phenomenon to emerging risk to lives. And policy response have focused on saving lives and preventing heat waves related stresses in businesses and workplaces. So according to him, the policy responses have focused on saving lives and preventing heat wave related stresses in businesses and workplaces. And South Asian policymakers, but the South Asian policymakers are yet to grapple with the emerging challenges of risk in wet bulb temperature. And in the end, he concludes about the policy landscapes in South Asia region, that South Asia is far from developing a framework for regional cooperation for dealing with risk of heat waves. So the framework is not really there. And in terms of some of the heat wave mitigation initiatives that have been initiated in various countries of South Asia region, he has set several examples. Beginning from the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation developed first heat wave action plan in the South Asia region in 2013. And we were also part of developing that plan, the All India Disaster Mitigation Institute. Following that, the National Disaster Management Authority of India, they issued an important national guidelines for preparation of heat wave preparation, prevention, and management action plans in 2016. And that was revised in 2019. And based on that, so far, 46 cities of India have developed heat wave action plans, including 8 states of India. And in Pakistan, cities of Karachi developed their heat wave action plan in 2017. Similarly, Lahore developed a similar plan in 2022. In Bangladesh, again, the Rashani city of Bangladesh, Nepalganj of Nepal have their own heat wave action plans, and Dhaka North and Dhaka South city corporations have chief heat wave officers to coordinate action with various agencies. So there is some progress in terms of heat wave prevention and mitigation in countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh also, including Nepal. And Maldives, again, is in the process of developing heat wave action plans for the city of Malé, which will define the roles and responsibilities of different government bodies for heat wave preparedness, response, and relief. However, none of the cities of Sri Lanka have heat wave action plans, but 4 strategic areas have been identified for dealing with hazards of heat wave, and that are early warnings, public awareness, capacity building of health systems, and adaptive measures and reducing exposure. In Afghanistan, Khandar province of Afghanistan is again vulnerable to heat waves, but the process of development of heat wave action plans has been hindered due to the absence of data and technical capacity. And last but not the least, Bhutan deals with heat wave related issues as a part of National Adaptation Plan to Climate Change. So these are some of the initiatives that the government and administration of various South Asian countries have taken in the recent past. And then he talks about components of heat wave action plans. And he says that every heat wave action plan is country or city specific. And they are designed to fulfill specific needs of local conditions. But however, there are 6 components of such plans that are common in nature. So after reviewing all these heat wave action plans from various regions and countries, he has identified 6 components that are common and are important to heat wave action plans. And the first one in that list is building public awareness and community outreach on preventive healthcare and adaptive measures for reducing impacts of heat waves to education and media engagement. The second important component he has identified is about early warning and weather forecasting. The third component that he identifies is developing capacity, especially of the health professionals, to recognize and respond to health-related illnesses. The fourth component, a very important component of any heat wave action plan, is reducing health exposure and promoting preventive measures through identification of high-risk areas of the city and launching advocacy of campaigns for prevention and adaptive measures to deal with heat stress. The fifth component that he has identified is about governance, and it is about defining roles and responsibilities of various agencies and stakeholders for interagency coordination and collaboration with non-governmental and community-based organizations. And the sixth component is about developing heatwave emergency response plans for managing peak heat wave conditions for saving lives and providing emergency relief and rehabilitation measures for the vulnerable populations exposed to heat. So these are six common components that he has identified and highlighted, which are crucial to the success of a heat wave mitigation action plan. He has also identified and highlighted gaps in heat wave action plans of various countries. And in his opinion, heat wave action plans address short-term impacts of heat waves, uh, and their focus is almost entirely on emergency and humanitarian response. So basically, they are response-oriented in his opinion. He also says that he also says that heatwave action plans are insensitive to differential spatial and social economic impacts of heat waves in different city zones and vulnerable populations. Heatwave action plans also fall short of holistic understanding and action on early and late heat waves. He also highlights lack of connection between the upstream policy and downstream action. So disconnect between policy and action. And he also highlights the disconnect with initiatives on climate mitigation and adaptation, the disconnect with studies on urban heat island effects. And he also thinks that, heatwave action plans, they do not necessarily address emerging issues of thermal discomfort of urban, semi-urban, and rural households and workplaces. So these are some of the criticism or gaps that he has shared in relation to the heatwave action plans of the South Asian countries. And in terms of way ahead, he has shared several suggestions for us. And the first one is, critical gaps in existing heatwave action plans must be addressed in a coordinated and comprehensive manner to make the heatwave action plans more effective. We think that a multidisciplinary approach should be followed in revising existing heatwave action plans involving meteorologists, urban planners, architects, environmentalists, public health professionals, disaster management specialists, and city administrators. He also suggests that roadmaps must be developed for implementation of heatwave action plans on short, medium, and long terms. And similar action plans and roadmaps must be developed for provinces, cities, and urban fringes that do not have such plans already. Adaptive long-term planning requirement is required to alter the urban bioclimate across vital scales, ranging from individual buildings to regional planning. That is what he's suggesting. He's also suggesting that with homogeneous pattern of urbanization, climate and socio-economic condition, South Asian countries could mutually benefit from knowledge sharing and collaborative multidisciplinary research. So he's advocating for the multidisciplinary research also. And he's saying that by drawing insights on proven local solutions, so locally led actions, and scientific based or science-based decision support tools, countries of South Asia region can build capacity to improve management of extreme heat wave risks in the region. Yeah, thank you. So this is the presentation that Dr. P.G. Dar Chakrabarti shared and asked me to share with all of you. So whether Professor Mehbooba Nasreen has joined. or Dr. PG Dhar Chakrabarti? Any of them have joined? Can you check the list of panelists or participants? I think no, they have not joined yet. So maybe what we can do, we can start a round of question and answer. And in case they join, they will join us to address or answer some of those questions. And we also have our director, Mr. Mihir Bhatt, who may also have some views, opinions, suggestions, and recommendations on some of the comments or questions that you may have. Thank you. So the floor is open for question and answer and discussion. You are also welcome to share your experiences on heatwave preparedness and mitigation in your respective countries. Thank you.
Hello, Pandey sir. This is Hafizur Rahman from ICAT. So I'm working at ICAT in the climate resilience migrant friendly town, which is through locally led adaptation. I'm coordinating this project. So I'm just sharing on my point of view in Bangladesh context which is linked with your context on heat wave. We are working on the all kind of climatic hazard, but I'm just essentially try to adapt some heat wave for this for your presentation. So when we are selecting some of the cities, those who are trying to climate resilient migrant friendly town. So when we are working on that process, there we are previously in 5 to 6 years before, maximum local people are climatic hazard is kind of depend on their community perspective. When we visit to coastal community, they are trying to say their climatic vulnerability is kind of cyclone and high tide like that. But now, if in present, when you try to visit on in coastal area or other area, they are trying to address the heat wave in the one of the biggest problem on their community. And here, Dr. Ranjit mentioned that the heat wave mainly affected in livelihood sector. They are mostly affected on this sector, and the people are most of the people they can't go to work, and their income level reduce more frequently. They can't work on that. So I'm just we know this. I'm just talking about that. We know this situations. We know the government policy, but there is no there are no linkage between the local level and the national level policymaker. Is there any intervention for the local level community, those who are working during this heat wave? Is any short-term livelihood opportunity to create for them, which will be helpful for them, and which will be adequate for their national level to international level, to their lower their voice. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing the experience. Yes, I think Mehboobaji has joined.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes,
How
good
are you?
afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We know
Thanks
that
for
you are
inviting.
So let me welcome, Mehbooba ji. Uh, uh, a minute. And Mehbooba ji need not any introduction, but still, Dr. Nasreen was involved in various academic, administrative, and co-curricular activities in Bangladesh and also outside. And she is a co-founder and director of the Institute of Disaster Management and Vulnerability Studies, DMVS, and she has received the Mary Frank Mears Award in 2016 from the Natural Hazard Center at the University of Colorado, USA. And that was for her contribution in the field of disaster and gender studies over 30 years. So we welcome you, Mehbooba ji, to please share your perspective and views. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mehul Pandeyji, all the participants, and also those who are listening to us today. And because you know that today's session is about heatwave, and the title that we are going to discuss today, you know, that relevant to policies, all the policy demand for the from family and home businesses. So heatwave and preparedness, I can say the main words here. And the title of my talk would be the Policy Action Agenda, Intersectionality and Heatwave Preparedness. So as AIDMI, All India Disaster Mitigation Institute, had another conference and had the opportunity or scope to discuss about this. Now, you know, there is a blog that I have written. I can share the link on these heatwave related issues. But actually, the necessity of social awareness program, because considering heatwave, my points will be in that way that we had two research, like two master's level thesis students I supervise. In that way, we also involved another research, specifically the gender and intersectionality issues. So one of the major point that if the people, the social awareness program, whether the people, the participants knows about the heat wave, whether the term exists or not. So what we have heard that over 86.2, like over 86, that means 86.2%, and that field work has been done in 2023. Only about 14%, 13.8% said that yes, sometimes we hear about the discussions about this. So these people do not belong only to the marginalized category, they belong to all categories. So that's why we would like to say that heatwave is not is a contemporary discussion in the academic level, but it's not about the massive social awareness. So the policy framework that we would like to see, that there is no, even when we ask the people who that are about 14%, 13.8%, and they said that whether this one is through the media or through any government organization or anyone. So the title of our thesis, like our table, you can say, I'm reading from there, informed about social awareness program. So 89.5%, they said never. Like out of those 18 people or 13.8% people, they said they never heard. So about 90% says never heard from any no one informed that. So that's why if you think, we ask them whether they see any necessity of social awareness program considering heat wave. So what did they say? That yes, this is very essential, because we, like now the extreme weather is going on. At daytime it's very hot, nighttime even temperature going down low and low. And at the end of the night, you have to use blanket, which never happened. Okay, because in the summertime, this time specifically, when we put the clothes, winter clothes inside, we do it. If day hot, that means night is hot, which is not happening. So this kind of things they are saying, and they said that working women specifically, particularly working women, they have dual responsibilities in employment and the domestic duties. So when some of the people who go to workplaces, the category wise, they keep the workplaces very cool. Even the messenger working for you, staying at your office, very, very cool. They are using air conditioner. When this person is going back, the women specifically saying that when we are going back there, I don't feel like doing the domestic chore in this hot weather. I don't feel like cooking, but I have to cook because this is my domestic activity responsibility, but it's very hot. So, social awareness program, everyone says, yes, always. We have to have a social, this is coming from another, this is slum dwellers responses. They says, because I am working whole day for my master in a cooled house, but when I am going back in the Coral, the name of the slum is Coral Slum. It's a big, large slum, and they are, most of them are providing domestic services to places where they can go, they stay long, and they are coming back. So they think, yes, we have to have this kind of social awareness program. And the other people also say, we also had a control group, only 16, 17, 18% participated, and they said, yes, they also said more than them, yes, this is something you have to work with government. So overall experience, when we discuss with these people, that the experiences, challenges, all of them, not all of them, I must say, around about 70%, 69.2%, they said heat wave, they experience, and they think that our heat wave condition that have to have extreme and very extreme level. So the in-depth interview, if I read from doing laundry and looking after kids in sweating, in sweltering heat and extremely tiring, there are some case studies said that I have to stand in the bus due to overcrowding. So she never has a seat in the bus. The seats reserved for female passengers are located next to engine section of the bus. So that is one kind of like policy making things. So the female seat reserved in the bus when she is returning to home next to the engine section, immediate after the driver. So they experience heat in the public places also. So significantly, she mentioned that discomfort, fatigue, level of feel nauseous, all of these, headache and everything she mentioned. So she has to do it because otherwise she does not have any other alternative transportation. So this is one kind of. And another one is kind of ventilation in the workplaces, like extremely inadequate. Even the workers does not want to work in the cooling system, but there is no ventilation. Even there is no fan that she will stay under that. So this kind of places, even kitchen, some people do not have that ventilation kind of use. So the policymakers, I believe that the monthly salary, I should not say that, but it's very low compared to, because there is no wage, fixed wage for the domestic workers that with them. And some of them working in the garment sector also. The garment sector is also saying, yes, we don't have cooling system, air cooler very expensive, or because of the fire incidents, some of the garment sections, they have managed some ceiling fans, and that is also making their problems of working, because this also heat observer is not also there. So this kind of stories also, ventilation is a big issue, especially in the summer, and ceiling fans they have, but they are not adequate to alleviate heat, especially when the temperature rising and there is no conditioning. Windows are usually sealed and shut down to prevent dust from entering fresh air. So fresh air is scarce because even fan is moving, but the cloths and other materials may be like destroyed or damaged. That's why the garment sectors, they do not open the windows. Even there is no cooling. Some of the women mentioned that. So in the temperature inside, one worker said challenging job harder because of the high temperature inside her factory, 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit or more. So this is very difficult for continuing the work, because increasing of temperature day by day, it's increasing, going high and high. So they mention about some of the diseases which they have not faced. So she said many of us suffered from heat exhaustion and dehydration. Headaches, dizziness, and fatigue are common. A few workers even had heat stroke and had to be taken to the hospital. So we are all worried about the long-term head effects of working in such conditions. Even I also fainted one day, and when went to home, I returned to work after 2 days. But my supervisor deducted 3 days salary without any consideration, because she went half of the way. So 3 days salary cut from. So there are some stories. Maybe in future we are going to write an article, scientific article. So they prefer lightweight clothing, but where the uniforms are mandatory, they cannot wear that kind of dresses which they think will be useful. So that's why the production sector, they have to have or devise policy on the clothing which will be comfortable and not heat absorber, so and absorb heat, so like release heat and giving them some maintaining. So they said that during our work hours we prioritize maintaining proper hydration level. So the heat wave that they experience most severe, the incident that summer months in Bangladesh or in South Asia, sometimes we should say that we are sharing very common culture. So this is, they say that sometimes my workplace seems like inside, he is staying inside an oven. So this is extremely intense, relentless, and quite frankly posed a threat to life. So that's why we believe that in the office hour, in the offices, in the workplaces, sometimes we do not care about the domestic aids. So they have to have those kind of illness, heat-related illness, not discussed issues. Issues are not discussed that much. So the heat-related illness we identify differently, and I believe that they have to have, they mention about like that, where I set up my stall is like a frying pan. So they say frying pan, fireball, this kind of words they are using. In Bangla, it's a different, like different words, but its translation is like that. So the generator, some people use generator because of the electricity problem. And the electricity problem is also not solved because sometimes they use the false connection, or the connection they don't have any meter, so they do not have the electricity that type, so they keep a generator, and that is also a difficulty for them. So what there are many stories also. I think there are other speakers and time is very short. I believe Mehul sir is difficult for you. So because we are, last word I tried to say that because of rapid urbanization, unplanned urbanization, industrialization, the population growth, the climate change, the push and pull factor, the population displacements, and there is not having enough vegetation and water bodies. So these kind of tropical and subtropical and temperature related climate zones, we have to understand the vulnerability linking with heat and also linking with the risks that we are going to propose for as a policy. And the intersectionality, there are persons with disabilities who are working. We also having quota for Hijra communities. We are also having quotas for women only. So these kind of quota have to be filled up with the policy environment, with the climate and weather friendly, climate friendly, women friendly, gender friendly, intersectionality friendly weather, so that they can come in the workplaces and work smoothly. So thank you so much for giving me the floor and for your patience hearing, all of you. And this is the end of.
Thank you so much, Mehboobaji. You mentioned about very specific needs and demands from the point of working women, and I think you also raised a very important issue about raising awareness, because in South Asian countries, people have this thinking that 2 or 3 degrees here and there, what difference does it make? Because traditionally we have been very hot countries. So that mindset is still there, and that is also contributing to non-action during the heat waves, and also there is limited action on the policy front. So I think
Yes.
you raised these two very important points. So thank you so much for your time today and the presentation. And we have 2 questions in the chat box. And the first one is about the technological solutions or actions. So the specific question, I think if Dr. Rajvi, if you could try to answer the question about, what technological solutions or actions we can do to reduce greenhouse gases emissions, which will ultimately ease heatwave phenomena.
Sure. So to that question, what technological advancements can help us reduce the greenhouse gas emission? To this, I have two answers. The first one is we can switch to availability and use of renewable energy resources like solar energy, and ensure that the communities start using solar panels, solar lanterns, and solar fans. Second, that switching to e-mobility. So if we start using e-vehicles, that will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and thereby cut down on the emission of greenhouse gases. I hope this helps.
Yes, thank you so much. And if I may add, I think energy efficient building concept is also there. And I think we should focus on that. And, reforestation is also very important to reduce the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We also have another question, which is specific to Dhaka. So, Mehboobaji, if you could please answer or try to address this question. And the participant is asking, what steps can be taken to cope with heat wave in the densely populated urban areas like Dhaka?
Thank you so much. You know that Bangladesh, first kind of country I believe within South Asia that who appointed a heat officer in the I think the Dhaka. Okay, so there are some projects that crucial actions taken because you know that the IPCC forum Bangladesh speaks there. So stakeholder, there is a first kind of multi-stakeholder action plan in the warning system. So recently we are also involved in that academia sector, Bangladesh Preparedness Partnership, and there we are going to discuss about the heat wave. So the like if we think of that Bangladesh is now considering, but there is no specific things for from intersectionality perspective. So the policy is going on, but specifically we are seeing that there is a first part of a larger multi-sector action plan. There we are going to include the warning system. So that's why in the Bangladesh National Plan for Disaster Management, Standing Orders on Disaster Management revised in 2019, that time it was not included. So now the action is going on. And the Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan, which is under revision, that one also including the heat wave.
Okay, thank you so much. Any more questions or comments? I think we can take one comment and one question. Anybody from the participants?
Hello, good afternoon. I have one of my concern is that recently we are seeing that in the high-rise buildings in Dhaka and most of the cities, they're using the glass in the walls. So as a result, the heat wave is also increasing. And in case of heat waves, these glass ceilings or glass walls prevent the ventilation. So will there be specific building codes for urban areas like Dhaka that while using, you can use the glass walls, but must be the ventilation must be ensured either through exit fans or air conditioners. But in case of using air conditioners, it is not environment friendly, and it also rises the urban and the urban areas become urban heat islands. And we are experiencing extreme heat waves in our country recently, especially in Dhaka and Bangladesh. Last year, there was immense, very scorching heat, and also heat waves were severe. And we are thinking that this year it will happen, and it is also double due to the load shedding during the summer. So, what do you think about these infrastructural consequences contributing to the heat wave situation, or worsening the heat wave situation due to these glass walls and no trees? Thank you.
Thank you. Mehboobaji, Dr. Rafi, who wants to respond?
I can say a few like online. Thank you, Mohammad Parvez Hassan Yusuf. You know that the building codes 2020 is revised. This according to building codes, I think the glass houses and others they are having those kind of, because it's all commercial buildings mostly. Private sectors they are not doing it. So if you know there is a like devastating fire incidents occurred, and now government there is a high court bench direction that those who are not following the building codes and those who do not follow the law of fire prevention and control, those are going to be sealed, and they started to seal those. So the action is going on immediate after the incident. So we would like to say that if this continues, then those who are not following the building codes or not having enough ways to escape from fire, so those will be shut down, because we have laws, the policies. That's my comment.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes,
you.
I've got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rajvi, you want to add anything?
Yes. To this, to the question of facilitating ventilation, I would like to add that it is okay to switch to energy efficient cooling systems, but we can also resort to natural ventilation techniques like something which is similar to a stack ventilation, and it will create a chimney effect in the building. So eventually it will draw the cooler air and expel the hot air from the above. And secondly, we can also depend on operable windows. Although there are regulations for safety measures in place for these high-rise buildings, but operable windows, even in limited sections or having cooling corridors placed in these high-rise buildings, will lessen the impact of heat in these glass buildings.
Yes. I think we don't have any more questions or comment in the chat box. I also can't see any heads. So in terms of concluding our session, we had a useful presentations and discussions and very important questions asked. And based on these deliberations, 7 to 8 important areas for policy action are emerging from the presentation of Dr. P.G. Chakrabarty. There was a clear recommendation, policy action he raised or mentioned was about recognizing heat waves as notified disasters. And South Asian countries, no government has recognized heat waves as a notified disasters, and there is limited support, financial and manpower available to mitigate the impact of heat waves. So I think there was one policy demand raised. Then from another presentation by Seva, there was a demand for accurate health reporting and classification of heat wave deaths. So updating health-related reporting systems to include heat as a cause of death or morbidity to ensure that accurate data is collected and that data is actually used to save policies. So that was another demand that was raised and was mentioned. The presentation by Seva, Dr. Ratvi, there was another demand in relation to the health, and there was a need mentioned about public health interventions to prevent avoidable deaths. So, there was a specific suggestion to strengthen the public healthcare system to prevent avoidable deaths due to heat waves by enhancing our heat-related health services and infrastructure. And the presentation by Seva, Dr. Rajvi also mentioned about, diversifying livelihoods for women workers and, using existing government schemes to support the efforts of women victims was mentioned. So, for example, how can we use government schemes for housing or solar installations or, employment guarantee, social security or agriculture support? So all these government's existing schemes and services can be used. So that was again mentioned. And then there was a Mehboobaji's presentation. Very important thoughts were shared about intersectionality and gender. And again, her presentation, there were demands about, creating guidelines and regulations that requirements adjustment to work schedules, especially of women workers who work outdoors. There must be, guidelines for, construction workers so that, they can have hydration breaks, for example, or, access to cooling for outdoor and indoor workers to reduce the risk of heat wave illnesses. And there was also demand about, designing specific measures, especially for women workers, So how can relief and compensation measures design so that they are useful to the heat wave affected women workers? So there was again very specific demand, and there was also several demands mentioned throughout all the three presentations. And there were several demands about what type of products heat wave affected victims need, and who can supply those products, what kind of finance should be made available, and on what terms, so that heat wave related products and services remain affordable to the heat wave affected populations. So that is again an area for policy intervention. And then there were also several research and innovation related initiatives or studies were mentioned. We need more research and innovation to identify the vulnerable groups. We need to identify cooling technologies, which are, again, affordable to the heat wave affected populations. And, technologies, one of the participants raised a question about technologies. So what type of technologies can we use for heat wave mitigation? And there were again several demands mentioned about capacity building. So whose capacity needs to be built and in what areas is again an area for policy intervention. What type of trainings or training modules or guidelines should be provided at what levels, at the local level, at the state level, or at the national level. So that demand was also mentioned. So I think these are 7 to 8 demands emerging for policy action from today's session. May I now request Mr. Mihir Bhatt to share his thoughts before we conclude the event. Mihir bhai? I think he's, yeah. Imtiaz ji, you want to add something? I think that's it. Again, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, All India Disaster Mitigation Institute. I'm also a student of disaster management from Bangladesh University of Professionals. So it's very fortunate to join in this session, and I think that it's a very important topic. We always talk about floods, cyclones, and major disasters, but this heat wave and this cold wave, these are also affecting people. And heat wave is much affecting in our South Asian countries due to this global warming and climate change. So I think that research and dissemination, especially policy actions, should be continuing to mitigate these heat wave issues, especially in these in the disadeveloped and developing countries, because we people are suffering much. We don't have enough money. Our people don't have enough money to always operate the air conditions, and also to live in a climate friendly environment due to the climate vulnerabilities. So of course, I think that will contribute more in the future, and this research and this discourse discussion should go on this heat wave, which is very timely and very impactful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. So once again, on behalf of the organization, I would like to thank all our speakers, Mehbooba ji, Dr. PG Dhar Chakravarti, who could not be with us, unfortunately, today, and also Dr. Rajvi Joshipura. Thank you so much for your presence today and blessing the event. And before we conclude and close our session, may I request all of you, participants and speakers, to switch on your video so that we could have group photograph.
Okay. I can't switch on. There is no option to switch on the video.
Okay. So those who can, please do so.
Yes, thank you. Now I can join.
Yes, thank you. So we have screenshots, I guess. So once again, thank you so much to all panelists and participants for joining us today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Namaste.
Namaste.